Next, we will observe our main theme from a new angle. If and when art has such a huge impact in well-being and health, it must surely affect economy too. But how to better understand the complex connection between art, well-being, and economy?
This is a question we are seeking answers to with our next speaker, Pia Houni. You can find the biographies of all of our speakers from the Speakers tab on the left of your screen. And as you can see from Pia's bio, she is a real expert on her field, and I'm sure we will have an interesting 30 minutes ahead with Pia. And after Pia's presentation, again, we'll have time for some questions, so please remember to use the chat again. But now, Pia, please, the floor is yours.
Okay, good morning, people around Europe. It's a privilege to be here to give this presentation, so thank you very much to this opportunity. I will start my presentation by focusing on the word well-being, its connection to stories and the meaning of stories to our lives. After this, I will shortly open some research on the matter, then turn my focus to economy and close my presentation with some propositions and future views. The meaning and position of art and culture in society has changed significantly during the last 10 to 20 years. Economic growth and effectivity have forced us to look at art and culture in a new light. On one hand, this is a fascinating situation when we focus our attention to the question, how can art be an investment to well-being? We are simultaneously looking back at history. The ancient Greeks already understood the meaningful impact art has on people. Theater, music, and environmental aesthetics treat and influenced people as they do today. It is not very easy to define what well-being is. Even in the medical field, there are comparative theories on this topic. One of the more prevalent understandings is the self-report experience of one's own well-being. In other words, people telling their story about their understanding of their own well-being. As Foucault argues, Western modern medicine introduced clinical categories pertaining to mental health that produced specific types of deviant identities and enable greater state control over the identification and separation, both spatial and ideological, of ill and healthy populations. When people are healthy, the body can be practiced out of people's perceptual experience of themselves. In illness, however, the body interrupts the fantasy of mastery, making its presence known and felt, exposing itself for what it actually is, that is, as a material foundation of subjectivities. Illness interrupts comfortable certainties by forcing open the perceptual gap between doing and being. Where the doing of life is restricted and confounded when the body loses some or all of its capacities to function or is affected by serious psychological trauma. It is only when something goes wrong with the body that we're beginning to notice it. The harmony between the biological and lived body is disrupted, and the difference between two comes noticeable. Gilly Bolton, the British pioneer of therapeutic writing, has talked about important roles of medical humanities. Bolton says that many professionals argue that they don't need to write their stories, but once a story has been written, read, and discussed, they understood how an artistic process can significantly develop their perception and understanding. Why is this important? Bolton says, we do not go to the particular section with a live file, a drawer, or cabinet in our memories. We go to a particular place in a narrative, an association of events, faces, voices, places, foods, and senses of roughness or softness. Since the Enlightenment, we have suffered under mechanical metaphors that divides bodies and minds as machines. We are not. Our feelings, cognitive, physical, spiritual selves, and intermixed, they conditions and were conditioned by political and cultural context. All are expressed, understood, and expressed as narrative. Some words about research knowledge. In November 2019, WHO launched a report by Daisy Fancourt and Joyce Finn. This report went quickly viral due to its sheer size. It includes a few hundred research references, about 3,000 different researches. Even though these members are impressive, it is wise to understand what different types these results fall into. In this report, the authors collect and analyzed very important research data and gave evidence that art and culture activities can impact well-being and health extremely coherently. And in this slide, I have a main topic and results about this report. Fancourt's research group also published a new review article in Lancet this year about how leisure activities affect health. Thousands of studies have shown a relationship between leisure engagement and both physical and mental health, including showing efficacy and causality through experimental and clinical intervention studies, and the longitudinal and beneficial nature of these effects. In relation to mental health, studies have judged the value of leisure activities in the prevention and management of mental illness. In relation to physical health, there is evidence that engagement in self-reported health and play a protective role against some development physical illness. In this report, researchers have identified over 600 potential mechanisms of action by which leisure activities might affect health. Some of these mechanisms represent immediate responses to leisure activities, whereas others are proposed to emerge over the time or through changes in wider aspects of human development and behavior. Generally speaking, I would like to argue on behalf of research work with this thought. The quality of research work is based on two components. Is the research question good? And is the method that answers the questions suitable? As we fervently look for results of impacts, we might forget to see fruitful possibilities given by research work. The idea of impact is training us to see two opposite ideas. Yes, art can give good feelings, and yes, we can see the brain scan how music impacts the brain. Definitely, these both extremities give important information about impact. But this information doesn't do anything by itself. We need to also use this data and simultaneously think of ways to develop research to be more profound and not only copy previous works. We need more qualitative research questions and connection between different kinds of methods. Why do we need this? The answer is very simple. The purpose of qualitative research is to create qualitative practices. Next, I'm going to say something about the economy. When we talk about art as an investment to well-being, usually this also includes the economical aspect, at least in the social and healthcare sector, but also generally in municipality economics. In the last few years, I have been trying to understand more about the connection between economy and the impact of art. This task is not an easy one. It wasn't very easy to choose what to say here. Look at numbers. Yes, we can do that. But basically, in every country has its own standards and indicators. In this power, I will demonstrate Anger's 3 ideas of how to look at economy from a philosophical perspective. This might connect together with the complicated economical thinking. When we try to isolate some mechanism that impacts people, this task is almost impossible. I need to say shortly about these 3 economical points. First, standard economics. The economic welfare of the country is intimately associated with the size of the national dividend, and changes in economical welfare with change in the size of dividend. Measures of this general kind like gross domestic product, GDP, per capita, have well known in shortcomings, but continue to be widely used as welfare measures for public policy purposes. The importance of the national product as a measure of well-being helps explain the widespread concern with economic growth. True, specifically different. One thing that these measures have in common is the fact that they are based on preference satisfaction accounts of well-being. In the standard analysis, these measures are treated as measures of welfare because they can be shown to be utility functions. The proofs are available in any standard issue graduate level microeconomics textbook. Another thing these measures have in common is that they are based on utilitarian social welfare function, according to which social welfare is the sum or average of individual welfare. Number 2, economics of happiness. In the last few decades, economists have shown increasingly interest in the scientific study of happiness, satisfaction, and other subjectivity experience positive or desirable mental state. The economics of happiness as a self-conscious subdiscipline is largely due to Richard A. Esterlin in 1974, who brought happiness studies to the attention of mainstream economists and whose results continue to attract attention from them. When researchers compare different nations, for example, They typically compute the mean happiness or satisfaction score in each nation and compare and contrast those levels. Number 3, social indicators and capabilities. The most famous outgrowth of social indicators movement in the Human Development Index, HDI, of the United Nations Development Programme. The HDI has appeared annually in the Human Development Report since 1990. The HDI is based on 3 essential elements of human life: longevity, knowledge, and the decent living standards. The UNDP explains that life expectancy matters because a long life is valuable in itself. The capabilities approach represent a shift away from what people succeed in attaining, whether evaluated in terms of happiness, preference, satisfaction, or something altogether different, and toward the freedom they have in leading their lives. Martha Nussbaum has said, life, bodily health, bodily integrity, senses, imagination, and thoughts, emotions, practical reasoning, affiliation, other species, play, and control over the one's environment are those capabilities. It is not very easy to make a proposal how to construct a sustainable economy. One short proposal what I give to you here could be practice-based research, which develops elaborate knowledge of some practice. In this approach, everyday thinking is taken seriously side by side with the theoretical thinking. Finnish scholar Keijo Räsänen has proposed 4 dimensions for this work. One is how to do things. It's like a tactical question. What is received and achieved? It's like a political question. Why these means and targets? It's like a moral question. And the last one, who am I as a subject of work? It's like a personal question. So we should think about this more maybe later. My presentation turns to the last points, and for this we have a remember artist. I was very happy about the previous presentation from Lauri that he took this up as well. Who are the core of the matters? Artists are the core of the matters. Without any high-quality artists, education, and working experiences, nothing happens. It is also important to remember that artists have a right to their professions. Artists are creator, and creativity is the highest capital what humankind has, in a good and in a bad way. Daniels Reagan set up Arts and Health Hub in UK is one of those positive innovations. This network has collected hundreds of people to work together and share their knowledge. Like Avishai Margalit say, the spirit of a justice cannot tolerate systematic humiliation by its basic institutions. Because without the self-respect, there is no point in doing anything whatsoever. Without self-respect, one has no sense of value of any sense that life has meaning. When society calls itself a democracy, it means responsibility for providing capabilities for all its members. A decent society cares about the dignity of its members. including the more vulnerable ones. Societal justice means opportunities to participate and express yourself without punishment. Art is a language to which we have a right through life as a consumer, hobbyist, or as an educated artist. I believe that individuals and communities who participate in art activities are growing to know themselves, get better skills and the better skills of empathy, and for this reason, better lives. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pia. So now it's time for your questions, dear audience, that you can type in the chat. And we have a first question from Rob Steege from the Netherlands. How do you see well-being as a cultural force compared with what they in Netherlands in the 18 and 90s in political terms called a makeable society? Are you familiar with this makeable society term?
A little bit, not maybe very much, but a little bit, yes. Can you repeat the first one? It's about the cultural...
Yeah, how do you see well-being as a cultural force compared with the makeable society?
Yeah, very, very good question, and it's not an easy one. I think it's very important to find out in which way we want to see the culture in the society in generally, and understand more deeper about its connection to the well-being. And I think it's very, very important maybe to separate a little bit the word culture and art, because in culture we including almost everything, like reading a newspaper, cooking or whatever. Everything is culture where we are living. But when we're talking about the art and how the art impact to the well-being, it's a little bit different things. But I don't know, am I sure to answer very correctly for this question, but it's very, very good. Probably I should know a little bit more about this, the Netherlands situation, yeah.
All right, thank you. And
Sorry.
Rob, if you want to make some follow-up questions,
please do it.
Please do it in the chat. So then we have a question from Andrea Koatsianova. How to make artists think about how they could contribute through their work to well-being goals and not just doing art for art?
This is also a very, very good question and in the middle of the focus. In my research team, we have found out that there is the artists who want to call themselves like a social engaged artist. And these artists usually, train it more than they basic the art school education. And usually these artists have some kind of inner vision that they want to do something with the art in the social sectors or cities or whatever. But I think it's very important that we are side by side the different the parts to make art and the keep alive in the different kind of activities, which I mean that those artists who just want to do artwork, it's their right to do that. And it's still, very important and impact to the people as well as some kind of participating art or something like that, yes.
Maybe we come back to the recipe of cultural well-being that Lauri just presented. That
absolutely,
still
yes.
Art increases the well-being, whether it be pasta or gluten-free pasta.
Good.
And we need makers for all of the...
Absolutely, yes.
For all. Stefan Hoffman from Dresden would like to ask that, can you elaborate a little on how you would measure the level of well-being of a population?
Okay.
Big question.
Big question, yeah. I have one idea to share very quickly for this question, because WHO, when they're usually doing a big service data around Europe to collect it, how the people feelings, in which level their well-being is and so on. And if I remember right, it was 1992, they suddenly find out that, okay, we have very, very good battery of questions to gather the information for the people, but they understood that they don't have very much question about existential health. And they starting to notice and underlined more about these questions that the human being is the existential, which is something that we usually thinking more or less when we are doing art, that it starts to our existential, the potentials, whatever. And it was very interesting part of this survey that they wanted to find out more about the existential level and questions. But the point is the measuring is always very problematic at the moment. And the basic, the problem is because the human is so complicated and so many things impact to ourselves in at the same time. It's very difficult to isolate it that, okay, if something happened for my well-being, that it's totally coming from the art, because it's not working in causality, like if I have a headache and I take the pills, after 20 minutes I'm feeling better. Art is not working like this. And that's something that I believe that we should develop more about these measures, that how we measuring, how we understand about these impacts and to get the good knowledge. But if you listen to carefully, you probably notice that when I share these two research reports, they really say very often that they are focusing about self-reported well-being, which is a little bit different than the doctors measure something. Yeah.
Okay. One conversation, actually, you mentioned of this a little bit that comes up when we talk about art and well-being, is that is the value of culture as such threatened when we talk about culture or art in the context of economy or well-being? What do you think?
Yeah, okay. It's of course it's obviously very central of that action. I'm not so sure what you're looking for this question.
This is a conversation that often comes up within the artist. You actually talked a bit about this already.
Okay.
That is the value of culture as such somehow threatened?
Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. Yes, that's true that we're calling that the art for the art's sake activities, which meaning that the artists say that they have their rights for the authentic independency art. This is a quite modern statement or quite modern idea, because when we're going back to the history, we find out that the more than the artists have done independently, they are doing art in the connecting with some economical, the supporters or managers or whatever. And it's a problematic question, but as I said, that I think it's important at the moment in our societies that we can keep open, all this path. That artists have a right to doing artist work independently, more or less. What does it mean in generally to doing work independently? But we have to also understand that there is many artists who want to be a social engaged and using their art for the other people in the hospitals or other institutions. But I think the one big question behind this is about money. Because usually, the art is thinking about that, okay, now when we have this cultural well-being wave or something, it's meaning that, we are going to get less money for our own artistic work. That's maybe some worries about the background, which is, of course, the relevant point.
A relevant point, yes. So we have a lot of city representatives online now. And when we leave this forum, what do you think, what would be the next step steps for cities to do better work with cultural well-being and to connect culture better to their well-being policies?
I think that the one point what we should do is doing more cooperation, because every country is going a little bit, their own way or own rhythm. And at the moment, example to Finland, we have much, these activities and forwards activities and the political, the will to support about this cultural well-being. So I think we can learning something about the good practices from each others and maybe support each others to doing things. And of course, it's, as I said, in this presentation, it's very important that we're gonna get, the good research, results as well, because they are leading the good practices, of course.
Yes.
But cooperation is power, I believe so.
And that's why we are here within the Eurocities Culture Forum today. Stefan Hoffman has maybe a final remark or maybe a question. Maybe what we call art for art's sake is also a reservoir of freedom, and this freedom is what society needs to be healthy and sane.
Lovely comment, very lovely comment. I agree this, absolutely.
Me too.
Yeah.
But creativity is the highest capital for human. That was something that touched me really much on your speech. If there are no more questions, we would like to thank you, Pia, at this point. But we will hear more of you a bit later today, as you will give your insight and wrap up this plenary session before the lunch.
Absolutely, I will. Thank you very, very much, everybody.
Thank you, Pia.
Yeah.